Okay, traditionally, Bhagavad Gita study, we chant the Gita Dhyanam. We would chant it in Sanskrit if we were in India with a Gita scholar or a Sanskrit scholar. Here we'll chant the English translation together. Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself,
which was composed
of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness on us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf, and people of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent, and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. So, we'll continue. We're in Yoga of the Field and the Knower of the Field. Always interesting how wherever we are in Upanishads or any other readings that we pick up or reinforce where we are in the Gita study. Recurring theme of the Gita study, recurring theme of all of this has to do with discernment. The power of the intellect to recognize its own non-existence. Non-existence as a separate entity, as a separate thing, as an individual thing. And to recognize the supremacy of the light. And to find where that light is, where the I is. And to recognize the difference between the light and that which is shadow, or that which is appearance, or field. And the term we're using here in this chapter is the field. The field and the knower of the field. You could say the horse and the rider of the horse. And you could be there also. The horse and the knower of the horse. Field and the knower of the field. Okay. And we just keep going at this. So yesterday I was walking by and dear Sean was having some earnest conversation, Sean and Nathan. And Sean said, he said, I just don't know. And he wasn't upset about it. He was saying, I don't know. I don't understand. And I was walking by at that point and I laughed and I said, yes, the highest attainment of the intellect is to know that it doesn't know. We all walk around with this conscious mind saying, yes, I know. Yeah, I know. It has something to do with protection mechanisms and not wanting to be embarrassed and having succumbed to the feeling of being separate and all of this. Yeah, so really. And then humility is to admit to oneself and outwardly that one doesn't know. And to accept that as the condition, as the lot. But there is that which is to be known and which can be known, and that's what we're discussing. And it's very simply this. It's the relationship between the field and the knower of the field and the identity. Where am I in this? Am I really in the field? Because the conscious mind speaking is in the field, which I've taken to be I. Okay, so we continue with Swami Shivananda. We read this yesterday. We'll just read the shloka and then continue. and undivided, yet it exists as if divided in beings. It is to be known as the supporter of beings. It devours and it generates. And here, the words are all carefully chosen, of course. So when we say it is to be known, by what? Intellect, conscious mind. It's to be worked out. It's to be known or related to, you could say like that, as the supporter of all beings. It devours and it generates. So what we call destruction and creation, here being called devouring and generating. 17. Let's see. Actually, we want to pick up some of the commentary here from Swami Shivananda. He gives commentary on 16. He says, Brahman must be regarded. He also chooses his words carefully. Brahman must be regarded as that, capital T, which supports, swallows up, and also creates all beings, and the three forms of Brahma, who creates the world of names and forms, Vishnu, who preserves or sustains, and Rudra, or Shiva, who destroys. So, common way of relating to the function of world creation, sustenance, and then destruction, right? I was with someone a few years back who we were talking about the concept of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva as the forces, as they were, or supervisors, overseeing the creation, the forming, the sustenance, and the destruction. And he said, yes, G-O-D, God, generator, observer, destroyer. So different ways of relating to the same. So here, Brahman must be, he says, regarded as that which supports, swallows up, and also creates all beings. So Brahman, you're stepping up from this concept of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Here, Lord is saying that I, in the deepest sense, Brahman, are that, all three of these functions. I am all of these. It is undivided in the various bodies. It is like ether or space. It is like this. These are given for us to use conscious mind and relate to it and see if we can catch it. I've shared many times and will many more, depending upon how much breath comes. Swami Ramaswarup, when I was going back to visit in India for the last time that I went, I asked him what I could bring from the US, and he said, yes, please bring me some American space. So, and of course at once, it's one of those twists in the mind, you know, a little twist in the mind. Do you know what's meant by that? You have to contemplate something that can't be contemplated, and you come to it and you say, you can't divide space. How can I take you a piece of American space? Am I going to put it in my luggage? My luggage is already full of it. And by the time I get there, it won't be American space anymore. It'll be Indian space. I won't have succeeded. I will have tried and failed. So Swamiji, I can't even try. Because the American space and the Indian space, you see, he knew this, they're one. And you can't actually divide them up, but you can imagine that you do. And that's the key to what's being shared here. Right? You can imagine that you can divide them up, right? Kartikeya?
It reminds me of the bottled air. Like people in like really like burning, what is it? What are these really polluted places? And
yes.
Water and air, bottled air. Like,
yeah. Well, and the air, as it were, is limited. So you can put a bottle of, but air is defined by its qualities. Right. Space is defined by its lack of qualities. Yeah? Yeah. And so space, therefore, is more subtle, less gross, and then you see, how can I divide it? But I can seem to. And how do you, and if you want to practice it really quickly, you can, because anywhere you look here will be space, and you know it. So you can look at the space in between yourself and Jesus' image right there, for example. And you can visualize, and you have to do it in the intellect, you see, because you can't actually see the space, but you can tell that there's distance. And so in the intellect, you know something about space because you've studied it. And so space in between, fine. So as it were then, this space in between here and there, as it were, this space. And then you bring your eyes perhaps to Krishna here on the altar. And now, is that a different space? Is the space different between you and them? And is there more of it or less of it? There must be less of it because Krishna is closer to you than Jesus is over here. And so but then if you step back from that, you say, wait a second, that's all a fallacy. It's the same space. And I'm just imagining here through a mental process that this is this space and that is that space. Yeah? This is identical. This is exactly what's happening with us. Only in the mental function itself. This is why there's no division when the mental function is collapsed. There's no division noted in deep sleep, and there's no division noted in the meditative state. This is why it's only a mental function to divide or parse. This mind is Maya. Mind is Maya. Not saying anything bad. Mind, Maya, one. The mind and Maya are the same things. They're identical. The mind is made of Maya. So this is why incomprehensible to the mind, because truth is incomprehensible to the mind. It is. But still, we study here as a way of getting the intellect to recognize the lay of the land.
I had a beautiful example of that yesterday afternoon when Brad and I went to the chocolate tree to pick up the pizza.
Yes.
There were two guys outside the patio playing a game of chess. And so as we were leaving, I walked by him and looked at the board I used to play and said hello and all this. And my eyes immediately went to the spatial dimensions of the chessboard to see who was winning and all this. They were about maybe 10 moves into the game, and it took me about 10 seconds. And all of a sudden, I noticed that the guy who was playing the white pieces, he had two bishops on white squares, and that's not allowed in the game of chess unless special circumstances. And so I looked at that, and I made sure, I looked at it twice to make sure I was seeing the right thing. And then I pointed it out to them, and it was so fascinating because here they are 10 moves into the game, pretty well developed, and neither of them had recognized that. And so I pointed it out to them, and I said, I think this one goes over here on the dark square right next to it. And they go, oh yeah, that's right, thanks a lot, And I just was I stepped back and looked at the whole thing again, and all of a sudden it was like the board collapsed, and it was like hard to explain. But I didn't see like the spatial differentiation at that point. And then we just left. But it was just so interesting for me because I immediately went to that spatial recognition. And I knew something was wrong. It took me 10 seconds to figure out what it was. But the differentiation was very interesting for me.
So here, and it's a statement of logic, and it can be inferred actually easily in a straightforward way when the intellect is pure. That means when it's free of the notions of being separate and judgment, getting into the judgmental realm and all of this. But Brahman here is being described as subtler than space. So we see already that space can't be divided, but you can appear to divide it through a mental function. Right? In the same way, here, it is undivided in the various bodies. It is like ether, Swamiji says. It is all-pervading like space. It's indivisible and the one, but it seems to divide itself in forms and appears as all the separate existing things and beings. It is essentially unbroken, yet it is, as it were, divided among all beings. The physicists get a great part of this, and we took that reading the other evening that said science is a preparation for yoga, which was interesting. Science is a preparation for yoga. So, because at the end of the day, the mind, the intellect is used in order to infer the truth. In order to infer the truth conclusively. Inference means space. The way that scientists got to the existence of space is by subtracting everything that wasn't space and finding what remained and then studying what remained. But the way they do that is through inference. What if statements. What if statements. And so, here, we'll continue. It is essentially unbroken. So you can imagine breaking it. And what I was just about to say is that the physicists get that all of these bodies, in essence, are space. Now, the difference with the Vedantin or the yogi is that the space itself owes its existence to the Absolute. And that the Absolute and the I are the same. The consciousness, this hard problem of consciousness, this consciousness as subject, right? I, you. This I, this mysterious I, is also subtler than space. Wherever I go, there I am. So it's essentially unbroken. Yet it is, as it were, divided among all beings. So even the I, as it were, divided among all beings. This knower of the field, as it were, divided among all beings. So you experience a field and I experience a field. Is it so? Yeah? Right? Yeah. Yes, James, you understand what we're saying? Yeah, you experience a field. You go about your duties and your responsibilities during the day, and you have a field that you're dealing with. And can you tell the difference? The thoughts, the desires, the actions, these are all of the field. And I'm like the rider on the horse, as Umadevi had said, or the charioteer sitting in the chariot with the senses and the mental stuff all about me, and then all of the outside objects around me. As I go through my duties during the day, I have this relationship between I and this personal field that I'm in, that I'm participating in, that I'm experiencing. Okay, well, Lord Krishna here says that I am the experiencer in all fields. Now that's a mind-blowing statement. So this I that's experiencing, Lord Krishna says, this I is the same as Brahman. Atman, Brahman, same. That's what Shankaracharya is saying. This I here in this field, which is clearly spirit, because the I is the same I, this is our experience in waking state, dream state, deep sleep. We don't know it consciously, but we can infer it, we can see that it's so. It's the same I in the past. It's the same I in babyhood, childhood, all of this. It doesn't change, it doesn't grow, it doesn't shrink. Same I. So this is our experience. We're so identified with the things that are happening. We say, well, I grew up, but the I didn't grow up. The field changed. The field was modified. So here, this I, in this case, is spirit. So we say soul, Atman. There's the term. But Lord Krishna says, I am the knower of all fields. Wherever there is a knower of a field, that's me. That's me. Here I am. And he's also describing himself in the deepest sense as Brahman. So that's where, so when Shankaracharya interprets this, he says, Atman, Brahman, one and the same. The experiencer and the absolute, the knower of the field, and the supreme, one and the same. And I tell you, when the conscious mind really does start to get this, and really does want to end its attachment to untruth, then it will do its best to come right into place. I am thine, all is thine. I am thine, all is thine. I'm not going to run ahead of you at all. I know where you are. I know who you are. Conscious mind. So it devours this world during the cosmic dissolution. It generates it all the time at the origin of the next stage. It supports all beings during the period of sustenance of this world. Just as fire is hidden in the wood, so also Brahman is hidden in all bodies. Just as one space appears to be different through the limiting adjuncts, pot, house, etc., so also the one indivisible Brahman appears to be different through the limiting adjuncts of the body, etc. An objector says, Swamiji's commentary, the knowable Brahman, the knower of the field, is all-pervading. It exists everywhere, and yet it is not perceived. Therefore, it must be of the nature of darkness or tamas. And still in his commentary, he says the answer is, no, it cannot be. What then? It is the light of lights. And that leads us to the 17. That the light of all lights is said to be beyond darkness, knowledge, the knowable and the goal of knowledge seated in the hearts of all. Commentary. The Supreme Self illumines the intellect, the mind, the sun, moon, stars, fire, and lightning. It is the self-luminous. And he quotes from Svetasvata Upanishad. The sun does not shine there, nor do the moon and the stars, nor do these lightnings shine, and much less the fire. We've had the same in Katha Upanishad not long ago, yes? You remember it? When it shines, everything shines after it. All these shine by its light. So here, Lord Krishna is saying the same as what we've covered in Upanishads. One light. All of this that we call light, one light. Same light. Light is light. Wherever you see it, light is light. It's one light. You see it and in a way it's, I get it, so. Like, of course it is. That light from those fluorescent bulbs, that light from these LED bulbs, that light from that sun, that light from the moon this morning, one light. One light. And that same light illumines also the intellect. And we can do this practice again just for a moment this morning. If we close the eyes. And Kartikeya, we're going to give you one more shot. If you close the eyes and you blank the mind, you clear it out. Sometimes I would actually visualize sweeping it with a broom in order to clear it out. And you clear it. And then you invite into the mental space an image And it can be a particular image, something that you want to see. Or you can just call forward an image, any image. And you see it. You can see if you can turn it around in front of you. And then you can let it go. So, Kartikeya, did you see something this time? No? Okay. Who was able to bring an image forward? Most everyone. James?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So, do you see that that image is lit? How else do you see it? You can only see that which is lit. So, and who is lighting it? It's the light of awareness that's lighting it. It's awareness itself that lights it. You just have to bring awareness to a subject, and it will be lit, as it were, in the mind. And here that was a visual experience, wasn't it? Within the mind? Yeah. Much the same way people will describe when they're remembering something. Remembering text, remembering a poem or something like that, seeing the text in front of them in the mind. So I don't know that that's everyone's experience, but often it'll get described that way. So it's actually easy way to connect to light. Where did the light come from? It comes from the same place all of the light here comes from. Light is light. This is what's being shared. And this says that is the light of all lights. Self-luminous. And then said to be beyond darkness, knowledge, the knowable, and the goal of knowledge, see it in hearts of all. Knowledge such as humility, etc. These are the virtues. The knowable, as described in verses 12 to 17, what is knowable. What is knowable, remember what is knowable. We're covering this the last few days. What is knowable?
The field.
The field and the relationship between the knower of the field and the field. That's what is knowable. You see that?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all that needs to be known, in fact.
Yes.
That's all that's really knowable, by the way.
Oh.
You can't know from a mental, intellectual sense the absolute, but you can know of its existence, and you can know that where the deepest I is where the absolute is.
Must be a knower.
This is knowable.
Field known.
You can't know the objects you think you do, but whenever you go deep into the objects, you get to the unknowable. That's what science calls a singularity. So you can know them in a way, intellectually. You can say this is a cup, it's used for this kind of tea, and etc., etc. Relative knowledge. But what is knowable really is field. Knower of field. Oh. Horse. Rider of horse. And the goal of knowledge. And the goal of knowledge, being capable of being understood by wisdom. He says these three are installed in the heart. And here we often hear the term heart and we think emotional, etc. But really the meaning of heart, he says here as well, is buddhi, intellect. Why heart? Because look again at your identity. Look at how you're identified. Look at where it seems you are. It seems that there is that which is above you and that which is below you. It seems that there are these inner choices that you can make which take you up or take you down, right? Same discussion as yesterday though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So where are you identified when you have that experience? where are you taking your reality from? What part of the field? Intellect. Yeah. Conscious mind. Buddhi. So, therefore, that's the heart of the person. Heart meaning center. That's the heart of the person.
The different differentiator.
Discernment. Power of discernment. Vivek. Though the light of the sun shines in all objects, yet the sun's light shines more brilliantly in all bright and clean objects, such as a mirror. Even so, though Brahman is present in all objects, the intellect shines with special effulgence received from Brahman. Okay, we'll read 18 and then we'll close. Thus the field, as well as the knowledge and the knowable, have been briefly stated. Lord Krishna says, my devotee, knowing this, enters into my being. My devotee, knowing this. When we explore a little bit in the morning, we'll cover it. But my devotee is important. Knowing this is important. Right? My devotee is important. Knowing this is important. Does that resonate in some way?
With devotion.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Questions, comments, anything from this morning?
Well, I was gonna maybe bring up this man in the 50s who wrote this book about this being that came to him, and he was physical. I could see him, but then when he photographed him, it was all light, except for you could see features, but it was like light coming into a form, but in reality, it's really just all light. And it was just a really neat picture.
When you see to the depth of creation, you see light.
Mm.
The depth of creation is not the right word, really. Not the best. The depth of the field.
Mm.
You see light. You see light. When you look at the atom and the show that the atom is giving in an electron microscope, if anyone's ever done, but I think everyone's seen images of it. You see a light show. Is it so?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And when you take that material, the energy, which is very deep in the core of the field, and you split it, what happens? And, yeah, massive, right? We call it an atom bomb or a hydrogen bomb. And what is seen first with the explosion of an atom bomb or hydrogen bomb?
Flash.
Light, intense light. So wherever you look in the field, if you look to the center, you start to get close to the light. And that can help to relate to what's being shared in this Sloka 17. I'm the light of lights. I am the light of lights.
Anybody who's like died and came back says they saw a light.
They saw a light. And it's not a physical light, although physicality is emanating from it.
It's so bright.
Right? So I am the light of all lights. And I'm present in everything. I'm present in everything. I'm present in yourself, in this intellect, which is lighting this field now, this study of the field, as it were. Oh. Okay, very good, Kartikeya. Let's close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Surandim Pushtivardhanam Varai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Surandim Pushtivardhanam Varai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Surandim Pushtivardhanam Varai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto Makashi Dukhabhat Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mritor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudashate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adorable Lord, mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Mambalo Sakar Shivananda Maharaji Ki Jai. And for all of the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai. Okay, let's rise for